Alright, salutations people who are watching this on the internet. This is our Doctor Who review of Let's Go Hitlers. I'm just going to say it now. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. My brain is about to explode about this episode. Go subscribe up there. We'll put the last Doctor Who review of Good Man Goes to War. I can't even remember. My brain is pretty much going to explode. That at first at the beginning of the episode I was a little upset. I was like, really, Moffat? Really? This is the way you're gonna start our second half of our season 6 or 7 or whatever it's 7. No, 6. I don't even know. Regardless, it's like, really, this is how you're gonna start? You're gonna introduce a new companion, and it's like, seriously, out of nowhere, and the Doctor randomly shows up and Rory and Amy are having to flag him down with a crop circle thing that was kind of inventive, but then I was like, really? This is all kind of dumb. And then all the flashbacks, basically how Mel had grown up with Rory and Amy, and then my brain just started to explode. And throughout the rest of the episode, I was picking pieces of cerebellum off of everywhere because the first half of the episode was like, we're not going to get anywhere. You built this up so much at the end of the first half of this season, and I'm really upset that we're dealing with Hitler. We're going back to Berlin. The TARDIS is all wonky. It's been shot. This girl Mel shows up, and like nothing's going right. And then we get the reveal. Oh, and the newfangled T-1000 Hitler version. There's so many new nicknames we have to come up with now because we have, like so many new characters. We have the crew of this anamorphic thingy, not anamorphic, but like we're just gonna call it T-1000 because that's basically what it is. The analog T-1000. That's what we're gonna call Mr. Changeover Roboto guy. The analog T-1000 shows up, and you're like, why in the world is this happening? Like, is he really going to come to kill Hitler? Which I guess he was. And then the whole thing about that's her. At first, they allude to the greatest criminal in the universe is the Doctor, and then you're like, oh, nope, it's the girl who now is Melody Pond, who transforms out of her old self into her new. Gosh, what do we even call her? River Song. I haven't come up with a classy nickname. Maybe Rudy and Liz, you guys can come up with a good nickname. Maybe we'll come up with by the end for River Song. And so she regens because we find out she's actually Melody, who's been now growing up with them. But then when she regens, she now suddenly has been programmed to, I don't know, like, I don't know if Mel, who we'll just call her Mel, is the actual Melody who was kidnapped back on Demon's Run, or if she has been like the sleeper pre-River Song the entire time to go and learn about Amy and Rory and the stories of the Doctor, to learn as much as she can, to now be in this point in time and space and universe and second universe where she will die, whether that was purposeful or premature transformation into Killer River, to then now kill the Doctor and fulfill our long time speculated whether River was going to kill the Doctor, which I think for all intents and purposes, and this will fall into a whole other discussion we'll have here in a moment about timelines. My head hurts. So for all intents and purposes, River kills the Doctor, and that's why the Space Police, can we just call them like the Power Rangers Space Police? Wasn't there like a Power Rangers in space or something? I don't even know, I'm too old for this stuff. Coming back to stop her and vindicate her at the end of her timeline, which therefore is correct that it wasn't the end of her timeline, because if we look further into the episode, we'll get to that. I'm going to save that. I like the fact that Amy and Rory get sucked into the animatronic T-1000, the analog T-1000, and it's kind of like Inner Space. Remember that movie, Inner Space? It was awesome. So they're inside. I don't understand how Amy gains access to the files on the Doctor because she's not his relative. Well, I guess technically she is his relative in the sense that the Doctor is intertwined with future River. My head is hurting so bad. Somebody help me. But otherwise, so that makes Amy the Doctor's mother-in-law by proxy of him being intertwined with future River and having a love connection. So, however she accessed Space Police's intergalactic files of history and how they can magically time travel too, I don't understand. She somehow has now accessed and given everyone foreknowledge of stuff that we'll talk about foreknowledge here in a second. I'm feeling more confident now that Moffat knows what he's doing. Last couple days ago when I shot the last review for A Good Man Goes to War, I had no idea that Moffat had any clue of what he was doing and where he was going. And Riz and Ludi, that was awesome. Rudy and Liz talked about whether they think Moffat has a giant piece of butcher paper on the wall with like a timeline scrolled out and Lost style and knows exactly where everything was going. I think he does. I don't know if he has it all out there, but if Moffat is as smart as I think he is, as much as I think he's dumb for a lot of other reasons, I think he's capable of knowing how he's going to wrap all this up, either at the end of the season or now that it's been announced that Matt and Karen will be back for a 7th season, or 8th, I don't even know, just forget, I don't know my numbers, that he knows where he's going and he's going to make it all work out. And it gives me very good confidence that the overarching story of the silence and everything that's happening throughout the current season will have a mostly nicely wrapped up little box by the end of the season. I was very worried for the first half of this episode that they were throwing us off. It was a standalone episode. It wasn't going to continue the storyline, and I was so upset because you had built up so much at the end of A Good Man Goes to War about where the story was going. I feel like we still made a jump from the end of Good Man Goes to War where Doctor leaves them, and I think this is playing into a larger Doctor in terms of he goes off and does things on his own and really in a Gandalf kind of way. If you've read the actual Lord of the Rings books, Gandalf disappears for like 50 years in between the end of Bilbo's birthday party and when he tells Frodo to start going on the quest. There's like this long thing where Gandalf goes away and understands things. And I think the Doctor very much has gone away to understand things. And I'm still putting money on a Ganger Doctor and that he has setting up to get back at the cleric army people for deceiving him twice. Because that was one thing in the last episode that Eye Patch Lady talks about, deceiving him twice. This is like, we got you twice and I can't believe you fell for it the second time. So I think Matt Smith Doctor is a little vengeful, especially because he's very protective, even though he makes an illusion that we go back to the Doctor's rules, and the last rule that he talks about is the Doctor lies. And the Doctor has purposely been deceiving Amy and Rory and everyone else throughout the season, which seemed very uncharacteristic of him until now we understand that the Doctor does lie. And I think for a very good reason, because I think the Doctor is smart enough to show everyone up. And I think at the end, when we get to the resolution of how the Doctor is going to get back at the clerics, or the cleric army, is his own Ganger. I'm calling it. I'm calling that Doctor that dies in Lake Silencio, which was the thing that I was trying to remember about seeing in a preview. And I remember it was this screenshot we saw from this where they pull up the Doctor's essential obituary, where it's him in Utah in 2011. And it's Lake Silencio, which, Lake Silence, for those who don't translate that. So I was like, there's something coming up, and that's why that is a very particular space and time thing. And this whole revelation that when Amy talks to, or the Doctor asks the archives, the files about the Silence, and how it's a religion and it's a movement, and I probably just need to rewatch that section to get my head around how they understand what the silence is and how space police is after the silence. So there's so much. I really might even go back and watch this tomorrow or the next day to try and wrap my head around it. The little motion comic thing that aired in time with the BBC USA in a commercial break, it was fluff. It's a sponsorship deal between AT&T and BBC America, because I think something about believing, as the doctor says it, or they're going to work that in as a sponsorship deal between AT&T. So it was inconsequential. I saw it after because it was a bonus scene that was downloaded on iTunes when I watched it tonight. So it's kind of cool, kind of dumb. I understand they couldn't have, BBC America or BBC didn't pay for a motorcycle chase to fly out a window over a tank and everything like that. Inconsequential to the overall story. So back to timelines. This whole thing that we had heard, I guess from last season and into this season, that River and Doctor are moving backwards. I also think it's not a linear timeline, it's a circle. And they have been moving in opposite directions of this circle and will continue to circle themselves on this path, in a sense. Which also would lead to my other prediction that everything's going to reset, go back to the crack. Like I have been saying, that this alternate universe, since Doctor rebooted things, we're going to go back or back to that point or something. Because this whole River Doctor now circular thing, because River Song, future River Song, actual River Song, and killer River Song, I think have been distinguished as two different people. So, in her death, when she uses the rest of her regeneration to bring the Doctor back to life, who she kills when she actually kills a good man, and now sets up why she's in prison, and people are hunting her as having killed the greatest man in the universe. Sets up now the Doctor's new life at the end of River's life, and also the new River at the beginning of, or at the end of the Doctor's life. You follow that? Because we had always heard that the Doctor met River for the first time at the end of her life, and she met the Doctor for the first time at the end of his life, which in this episode all comes true. Because pre-programmed assassin River kills the Doctor, but in that moment the Doctor dies and he whispers to her, and she fully becomes realized as actual River, and the Doctor dies. So the end of Doctor's life, beginning of River's life, but then at the same time the Doctor knows everything about River at the end of her life, and with the handing off of the new book and the extra scene where she's in 5140 or wherever studying archaeology so that she can know how to prevent the Doctor from dying in 2011. Sit on that. That now new River, actual River, and her handy dandy spoilers, and has researched from the end of time all the way back through history to know all of these things, is now on a mission to save the Doctor from dying in his actual death, which has been inscribed in his obituary as 2011 in Utah. You see? I think I'm onto something. And I think it's all making sense. And, in the same way that the Doctor has foreknowledge about everything now, because he hides it from Amy that he knows about his death because he downloaded it from, the analog T1000. See, I'm getting it. The analog T is a bad name when I can't remember it. The analog T1000, when he downloads that information and hides it from Amy. There were some good Rory moments here. I gotta say, a couple good Rory moments. The Heil to the punch to the analog T1000 to knock him out. That was good. The Rory, well, when Amy asks him if he knows how to ride a motorbike, he's like, well, if any day I can do it today, okay. I was almost upset for a moment when Mel died, when I was like, why don't we just kill Rory? Everyone else dies. But then that turned into a whole other thing. And then, though, in the coming up next time on Doctor Who, it seems like we're playing with some almost Twilight Zone-y kind of little kid thing, and then dreamlike thing, so maybe we'll see a return of the Dream Master here, where Rory and Amy say, well, we died again. So we may get to see Rory die yet again. There's a lot to think about. Moffat clearly has at least set up a lot of different things that now can do it. But I think at the same time, if I'm correct, he's providing us with all these different things, but in a sense, he's really just focusing it down. His misdirection, Moffat is so great at this misdirection that he's throwing all these things out there, but in a sense, he's really narrowing it all down to become this very focused storyline, which I hope we don't get too many standalone episodes for the rest of these 6. That it's very focused into what's going on and how we get back to 2011. And that I think there's a possibility since... that was different. For a moment in the episode, I thought that new River Song, freshly minted River Song, was going to be the one to send blue letters to all of themselves. But I think maybe alternate Doctor still has sent himself blue letters. So, but then also there's a point of contention here that River breathes new life into dying Doctor with her regen power, which I think is a callback to something that Eccleston did possibly to Rose. Oh, that was another great thing when he's going through the automated voicing that he wants to talk to you, that they bring up all the past companions from this current series, and I was like, I want to hear Rose talk, and they didn't. But then also the whole fish stick and custard things, that also is something to read into, in the sense that, was that little Amelia Pond self-aware, even though she was spouting out that she's a voice transmission thing? So there's some things to play with there too, in terms of how the TARDIS is doing. But, well, like I was saying, that the Doctor regens because of River's regen thing that someone correct me about Eccleston and Rose. That this isn't the Doctor, because if he really was going to die, or how this poison works, that it disabled his regeneration thing, so therefore we're still dealing with a Matt Smith Doctor, I think was very interesting, because, that theoretically should have been our regen point. Maybe this was all because contracts were up in the air, and they left themselves an out, in terms of Amy and Rory could have died inside of, the analog T-1000, and you could have brought in some new cast members. Matt Smith could have actually died of regen, and they could have brought in a new cast member. So it might have been an in and out point that they now have washed over, that Matt and Karen and everyone else has re-signed their contracts. Though I can't remember to hear whether or not Rory has re-signed his contract, so Rory may die altogether. So I'm very excited to hear what Rudy and Liz have to say about this. I'm very excited to see what you guys have to say about this, and how you are either excited about the rest of this season or how you're not. And I will be back every Sunday night or Monday morning to talk about Doctor Who. So, very exciting re-premiere. I'm definitely going to watch it again to just kind of nitpick the fine points here, and we'll talk more next time. So until next time, subscribe, watch the last one, tell all your friends about this, and we'll see you guys next time. Adios.